there's Bare Knuckle FC that came about a few years ago as well. You were obviously one of the forerunners in the UFC when the gloves weren't mandatory. Do you think after 30 years in the business now of shoot fighting and more, is wearing gloves more safe or less safe in the long run?
Well, I don't think you could really put a finger on it as far as any proof. But from my aspect of taking 3 or 4 different styles of fighting and been involved with it, for me, you're literally the aspect of putting a glove or tape on a hand is to what? Protect the hand. Nothing to do with protecting the head. You wear headgear for that, right? And that doesn't do it, right? So for me, I think that the idea of what they try to sell to the fans as far as protection when they first put an MMA glove on someone, it's like, we want to protect the fighters. Well, the reality of it is they wanted to protect the guys that were winning. They didn't care about the guys getting knocked out. I mean, those guys aren't coming back, right? I mean, like, they want to protect the guys so that they can make it, especially when we were doing tournaments, that can make it to the next round and be healthy and fight. So that's why the gloves were implemented in the first place, not for the safety of a fighter's head, but for the safety of the fighter's hand.
This was to placate John McCain, wasn't it? And the Crusaders against UFC and MMA fighting in general.
Well, I'm not sure that was even it. I think we were starting to move in a better direction. I mean, obviously, I think visually, it looked like they were protecting and becoming more, I guess, organized or more of a fan base type thing. But the reality is that people got to understand, man, that isn't what it is. And we're talking about now, right? You're talking about putting tape on a hand, putting a 4-ounce glove on top of that hand. So now what I've done is I protected this hand so that now I can hit you in the head 100 times and not hurt my hand. You take all of that off, and every single boxer, if they're being truthful with you, or an MMA fighter, they're being truthful with you. If they tell you that you have to go out and fight bare knuckle, they're not going to want to. Not because they're afraid of getting hit in the head, because they're afraid that they're going to break their hand. That's the truth.
What's your opinion on fingerless gloves versus fingered gloves in certain other MMA promotions? Are you more of a proponent of the fingerless, or does it sort of affect grappling in too much?
Well, we go back to the original thing that I said with God-given talent, right? Well, it literally does take away the God-given talent when you actually cover a hand with a glove, whether it's fingers or whether it's not fingers. Look how many rear naked chokes, how hard it is to sink in a rear naked choke now. Whereas back in the day, if somebody got your back, you 75%, 80%, you were going to finish that fight. Now, once they put the glove on there, you're lucky it's 50-50 that you maybe even less than that, but it takes away the odds of your submission. Leg locks, where it's very, very important that you're able to feel with your wrist, to be able to hook an ankle, be able to hook an Achilles. There's a lot of things that you have to do with your hand and feel with your hand that you don't get with the glove on. So it's taken away a lot of the submissions. As far as striking, and we talked about this, it's really taken away the purity and the accuracy of striking. Now you put a glove on anybody, and we can make it a tough man contest where you can swing from the floor and then hit him in the head any way you want, and you get rewarded for it, as opposed to, yeah, you may knock a guy out swinging from the floor, but you're not going to fight for 6 months or for a year, however long it takes to heal that hand. So I truly believe that, we need to be moving in a different direction and really start paying attention, not to what people are saying, but what the facts are.
So gloves are essentially keeping up appearances, but the science doesn't quite back them up in that sense.
It is. It's just appearances. It's satisfying athletic commissions, which to me, we need to rethink and relook at that and start looking at what we believe and what we know scientifically and medically about what a glove does and what taping a hand does. It's to protect the hand, not the head. I've got other things that are in the future that hopefully will be able to shine a little bit more in a different way. So we look forward to that. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Are we talking pro wrestling? Are we talking MMA? Are we talking somewhere in between? What are we talking here?
We're talking bare knuckle fighting.
Dude. Promoting, or are you getting back in there?
Yeah, promoting. Yeah, no. My days in the ring are are going to be very selective and in different venues. But in this is my love, something that I fell in love in the beginning, which was the bare knuckle aspect of mixed martial arts. I loved it. I feel like it's the purity and it's God-given talent. And it's something that I feel like two people getting in the ring, you don't need anything to make anybody better. You just go in with what you have been given or what you've been born with. So that's really my focus on really building something that continues to just be God-given talent.
One of the biggest ongoing stories of the last few years is John Jones has been refusing to fight for the UFC, still under contract. It's a big money issue. I'll give you a couple of numbers here. I think UFC pay about 80% of their revenue to the fighters. NFL's more around 50%. WWE's...
Say that. Wait a minute. Say what was it?
Sorry, UFC.
The first part? The first part?
UFC pays something like 18% of their total revenue per year.
18. I thought you said 80. Oh. I thought you said 80.
Oh, no. No,
okay.
I think it's about 18, NFL's 50. I think WWE's even less, that are like in the teens, like maybe 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there. But what do you think, as a fighter, of course, what's the sweet spot of how much should the fighters be paid?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not, that's way out of my league. But I will say that there's a problem. There's no question there's a problem, obviously, because of everything that's going on and how a lot of people are responding. And even I've been through it myself, and I felt like seems like there's just a disconnect here on that pay. Again, though, to be fair to Dana and the UFC, I don't have an understanding either about what they're bringing in, how much they're bringing in, what they're spending. So until we really get to understand that, then we truly don't have a position to really be able to come at this fairly. And that's what I've always said. It's nothing against Dana or UFC, but how do we negotiate as fighters if we truly don't understand what our role is and how much we're participating and how much they're making off of what we're doing, for us to be able to negotiate from a position of an equal advantage, because UFC understands everything that's coming in, what they're making, as opposed to a marquee fighter, not just a normal fighter, but a guy that is the face of the organization. How are you able to really negotiate a fair price if you don't understand all of the income that's coming in? And that's where I think the unfairness is that they're keeping that away and not letting anybody understand what that is, which is, if you're hiring people and you're literally using them to make your money, then you have to include them on all of it.
I take it you're a big proponent of a union in mixed martial arts and maybe even pro wrestling as well?
I don't know. Again, I don't know how the union works. I mean, I understand how it works outside in the job and all the other stuff. And I agree with some of the union, and I disagree with some of the union, because there's a lot of things that I don't understand why someone would get paid for whatever it is they're doing when they're not working, right? So there's a lot of those. That's like kind of going into a poll and voting, and you're going to vote for what you want, but there's 10 things listed underneath it. And you're like, well, yeah, but I don't like half those. Why do I have to vote for those? Why can't I just vote for this? That's the union, right? I mean, I agree with some of the things in the union, but I also disagree with some of the things in the union.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to move into one more MMA thing, and it's sort of shoot fighting. So yesterday it was, I'm going to blow this now. It was one of the Paul brothers versus Anderson Silva. I can't remember which one. Jake Paul. There you go. Wrote it down. And I was wondering if because there's been a bit of a trend recently with Triller and Oscar De La Hoya these last few years, trying to get these sort of like Legends bouts going. And first off, have you been offered a Legends bout for one of those two, or somebody higher up like that?
No. I'm the wild card. I have the ability to beat any of them. As people can see in my fitness and how good of a shape I'm in. And so they're not going to come after somebody that has a potential to beat them. So they're going to go after guys that they believe had aged very well in a bad way, and then they're going to fight them, which is smart. Don't get me wrong. I understand it, man. You got a guy coming in there that hadn't climbed up the ranks, hadn't fought, the elite of the elite to get to where they're at. They're handpicking their opponents. It's smart because that's all anybody's talking about. So you don't fault them for it. I think it's genius.
What do you think the long-term effects are going to be for boxing? Is it going to continue down the route of these sort of almost like celebrity fights, or where do you think it's going to go in maybe 5 years?
I think Valor Bare Knuckle is what's coming, because I believe this. People want to see combative fights. They want to see ranked fighters. They want to see professional fighters. And so it's fun to have these things on the side. I mean, millions of people are talking about it. Social media's talking about it. So it's great to have that. But the fans also want that other thing too, where they know they're going to see two guys who are literally went through the ranks to get to where they're at. And you got two of the best in the world fighting one another. I mean, that's got to go too, right? And I think that we have to transition from the softness of boxing. Boxing is soft because you're wearing a boxing glove. And you're basically doing the same thing you've done for 200 years. Things are changing. You take the glove off the boxer, which is what we're doing. Take the glove off the boxer, take the tape off the boxer, and now you go in there and you still do the same thing that boxers are doing, same rule sets, other than we don't have clinching, which is the most boring thing in boxing, no clinching. So where we go, there's no clinching. It makes the fights faster. Visually, it's exciting because there's blood, there's cuts, but long-term, it's safer. You're not taking all the damage you would with a glove on. So I truly believe that, every 20 years, 30 years, sports change, and they change the rules to try to make it more exciting and more up to date with what's going on in the world. I don't think boxing has done that, but I think that that's what Valor Bare Knuckle is going to do. We're going to take the gloves off, because now when you do that, it competes with MMA. It's just as vicious as MMA. So now you've got a competition with Valor Bare Knuckle or bare knuckle boxing with MMA, and anybody stepping into either one of these circles can win. You don't have to have 100 years in boxing to win in bare knuckle, because you can go in as an MMA fighter because of the difference of the gloves and the size of the gloves. You're not able to block like a boxer. You can't sit in the pocket. You got to use more footwork. You got to be more accurate. And boxers are used to taping their hands, so now they got to get used to not. So I think that now you have this new thing coming out, like we did in the UFC days, where no holds barred came out and they were fighting in a cage. It was exciting. It was new. I believe that's what bare knuckle is right now. It's something new, and people are going to start gravitating towards it because it's fast.